Garibay, my daughter, and Eli, my grandson. And my other grandchild, Ashton, is at K-State, couldn't make it today. Well, the history of the field is this has been a no-till since, I think, 91. My first seeded crop was in 90, but my first no-till harvested crop will be in 91. It's been a no-till ever since. The highly eroded field, been plowed and wheat on wheat for years and years and years. And deep gullies over there, gullies you couldn't drive through, and so we did terrace it and waterway it, and been in no-till ever since. This is a multi-species cover crop after wheat. Had a decent wheat crop here. We had late freeze damage, but this still was what, 60 bushel wheat. Then July the 10th?
8th of July, we seeded this.
Go ahead and tell them.
Basically we harvested and we went to our cash crop, double crop first. So we seeded our double crop milo first, and then this was one of the first fields that we planted as just a diverse cover crop, not for cash. And it was, like I said, I seeded it on the 8th of July.
Looking for the diversity, and we know some things, and we know about some things like the buckwheat helps extract phosphorus or brings phosphorus to the surface, and that's a really good thing. And we need the diversity of legumes and non-legumes, grasses and broadleaves. It's the whole mixture. They seem to be able to have a conversation. That sounds crazy. The plants will communicate amongst each other.
We have Proso millet, we have German millet, sunflowers, mung beans, flax,
Dwarfistic grape,
Buckwheat.
got
buckwheat,
And some melon, yeah.
okra,
squash,
Canola.
gourds.
Canola.
This field here was so eroded. Red soils. I can still plowed, harrowed, wheat on wheat. And if you look at these soils now, look how dark they are. They used to be really red. So it's all about the biology. Looking at it now, I wish we had a few more flowers out here. Maybe a little bit more vine stuff, pumpkins and squash. But overall, I'm real happy with the stand. And it's all about the diversity. That's why that model over there looks so good.
Yeah.
We need that armor. That's what we call armor. And it goes away real quick with all this biology that's going on in the soil. So, yeah, we want to get that. And if we use it, and I think I don't see any sense in us destroying this wheat. We'll just fertilize it, treat it like we would livestock, and then they'll be out here fertilizing them through their system, adding their biology to the soil. And then this will go back to milo.
We wanted things to flower at different times because on the other side of the tree row we have bees. And so we're starting to understand that, as Joe explained, we don't fully understand what's going on with the roots of multi-species growing together, but we know that it's a good thing. We know that they enhance the growth of one another. Now we're understanding that as we've added bees into the operation, that also the bees coming to this, them pollinating these crops also is a part of the function of what goes on down into the soil with the roots too. And I say that not fully understanding what that is, but we know that there's some connection between what's going on with the bees, with the flowering to the soil as well. And that's part of that's why we chose for this 75 acres here, a lot of different things that flowered at different times.
My name is Jorge Garibay, owner of Napa Bees, which stands for North American Pollinator Alliance.
And Jorge, we're here at Joe Swanson's at Santa Fe Trail Farms, and we're about to get into the beehives that he has. Tell us a little bit about why bees can be such an important part of crop production.
So I guess there's three different ways that the bees could affect us in our daily lives up into crop production. If you want to look at crop production as far as your garden is concerned for a smaller scale, that would be the number one way to maybe increase some of your personal crops. The second way that bees can be productive for you on a crop standpoint is the honey that they produce will produce a crop for you. And then once we get to a level big enough, let's say 20, 50, 100 hives, then we can actually start affecting crop production on a mass scale. So more acres, we're going to need more bees to do more pollination work for us.
And so when a landowner thinks about bringing bees into his operation, what can he anticipate in the way of yield improvement as well as a different income stream?
The different income, obviously we're going to be diversifying. We're going to having a honey crop. As far as yield, that will be dependent on how many beehives we have, but we know studies now can increase yields of certain crops by 15 to maybe 50%, and it's different for every crop. If you're a pumpkin farmer, that's going to be higher. If you're a soybean farmer, that could be significant.
So if a landowner commits to having bees on his crop or in his operation, what can he expect on average from a hive in the way of honey production, pounds per hive, as well as what they can charge for honey?
So good question. There are years that we're not going to have the help of the natural habitat to boost our yields. We've seen that without any supplementation of our bees, we've been able to yield maybe 30 pounds per hive as an average, which is not very high. I think the average for Kansas might be between 55 and 69, but that's with supplementation. On years that we don't have the early frost and we have nature cooperating with us, we could yield 150, maybe 200 pounds per hive. As far as probably the more important part of that is the product that you're selling. So we're able to sell our honey for a lot more money than traditional ways of beekeeping, because we can explain to people that we're not supplementing these bees with anything, and it's a more alive, healthy, and better tasting product. So we're able to yield probably twice as much, if not. We have some people that sell their honey for 3 times what the normal rate is.
So we see an awful lot of media that says we have problems with colony collapse and that we have bee disease. Share your philosophy on those two pressing issues and the way you manage bees differently.
Yeah, I think those things are very true and very real for many commercial beekeeping operations, and actually many hobby beekeeping operations. The colony collapse really comes as a result of poor bee nutrition. We are constantly coming up with new products to provide better nutrition for bees, but the best place to keep bees is where bees are already thriving. So if you don't have an area where bees are thriving, where you don't see many native bees, for instance, or just bees that aren't yours, then the habitat probably needs to get looked at, or you probably don't have enough of it. One bee colony requires a lot of resources. So when you get into an operation where you have 150 hives on one place, and you've run out of blooms, then the bees will adjust to the food that's available, not unlike any other species. You guys can come in and you can see what they're doing. The bees don't really care that you're here. We just want to give them a flight path here. They're positioned in a way to where, the bees will know this positioning minimizes drift, I think. And you could put a hive over there and a hive over here, so you could have like a little horseshoe. Because the bees will know to come in and that they know that their house is straight front. But when they come in, they just know to take a quick left. But if you had them all in a row, straight, and you were, 80% capacity of your weight, you're heavy, it's windy, you might end up drifting into the colony next door, because, your landing might not be so slick. But here, the bees know and they can calculate Go in and to the left. Go in and to the right. Go straight in. Versus all in a line. So here's the pollen, and then I try to taste whatever they're bringing in. I can't tell if that's sunflower, but at least I know that that's sunflower, and I've, mentally noted, I've increased my palate a little bit. I'm trying to grab one without pollen. Because usually I'll forage for pollen or nectar. So like they'll have a task when they leave. I'm going for pollen or I'm going for nectar. I've not really seen one that does both. See? So I'm trying to grab one that.
So is that their lifetime assignment, or do they switch?
They switch, and they switch daily. So they'll go, oh man, they rounded up all the flowers that were blooming, so now we're gonna switch something out. The toughest part for the bees is when we expose them to the outside, right? They've chosen to have an enclosed cavity. They'll propolize the inside, and when we go to open up the hive, that's probably the most traumatic experience that they can have. So we want to do that as gently as possible. When we open this up, we're releasing humidity and heat. So in the shade here, the inside of the hive now is 94 to 104 degrees. When we rip it open and bring it down to 72 or 73, they'll have to work it, heat it back up, which is usually why I don't go into hives, after this Labor Day week. But we're still going to be a nice warm week, so they should be fine. I know.
Did you make your own?
Yes.
hive?
I think everyone should make their own hives. Hives have really only been around for 150 years. Before then, we used skeps. The main hive.
So she made it then?
Yeah, she just made it 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So
Now, did you raise her or did they?
we raised her here. So when we gave away some bees, we gave away the queen, and the queen that was here was the one that overwintered. So they raised their own queen.
How long have
In captivity, they've kept them for 7 years. We have a 5-year marking system, so there's 5 different colors. So in theory, since this is a blue year and she's marked blue, then